2024 ended the same way that it began, with Alabama falling to the Michigan Wolverines, culminating what was the worst season for the Tide since 2007.
Welcome to the Pigskin Cafe, a podcast where Hampton, Chase, and Graham break down all things college football. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
They had to win this game.
There's a problem. This one's tough.
We are back.
That's what my guts tell me.
I genuinely could not believe it.
You don't live in the great state of Texas.
All right, big boy. Hold my sweet tea.
What are we doing?
That is a stat there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back into the Pigskin Cafe. My name is Hampton Sipper, and I'm usually joined by Chase and Graham Haney, but they had some New Year obligations, so it's just me today. We're riding solo and reacting to the Alabama versus Michigan ReliaQuest Bowl. And what a day it was. But before we get into that, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. If you've been a long-time listener, or if this is your first time watching the show, we appreciate you tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the content you hear today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and hit that notification bell. Now, let's dive into this game, everyone. Is it Groundhog Day? Because I feel like I've done a podcast like this at least 5 times, because Alabama lost 5 times in the calendar year of 2024. And holy moly, boys and girls, we've got breaking news. We have breaking news on the pod. Jalen Milroe has declared for the NFL draft. We will get to that and react in a minute. And if you can't tell by my reaction, I might be a little bit excited. But let's talk about this game in particular, because it felt like Groundhog Day. It felt like I've seen this movie before, and unfortunately, I know the ending. And I want to get this out of the way, too. I'm not going to ever demean someone's character. And when I'm talking about the play on the field, that is what I'm talking about. I'm not attacking Jalen Milroe personally. But the way that he played against Michigan on Tuesday was disgraceful. And he struggled with the same things that he has struggled with his entire time at Alabama. And I hate to be like, I'll come on here and tell you when I'm wrong 100% of the time. But guys and gals who have listened to this show for the past 2 years, I have been saying this over and over and over again. And the funniest thing to me is seeing all these Alabama fans on Tuesday, and it happened a little bit in the Iron Bowl, and it happened against Oklahoma too, but like, oh, Jalen Milroe can't read a defense. Oh, Jalen Milroe can't do this. He can't do that. He hasn't been able to do that consistently against elite defenses. This is not a new thing. I love how people say, oh, well, you get good Milroe or bad Milroe. No. You get good Milroe against teams that are not able to take advantage of his weaknesses. And you get bad Milroe when teams are able to properly construct a game plan to limit what he does well and really, really frustrate him. And it was apparent, just like it was apparent first drive against Oklahoma, it was apparent first drive against Tennessee, that he was going to struggle in this game. Because his first pass, he has Jam Miller in the flat, and what does he do? Yeah, it's a completion, but Jam Miller has to go to the ground to catch it because it's not an accurate ball. Then they move down the field a little bit, and it's 4th down, 4th and 4. And Michigan brings 4, and the tackles push the defenders upfield, which is what you're taught to do, everybody. If you get beat with speed, keep pushing them upfield so that your quarterback, if he has pocket presence, can slide up into the pocket, navigate the pocket, reset, and then deliver an accurate ball. But that didn't happen. What happened? Jalen Milroe does what he usually does. He bails back, and he bailed back into the pressure. And these issues keep recurring again and again and again. And I know I'm getting a little fired up now, but really during the game, I didn't get that fired up. I laughed. I expected it at this point. I know what he is. I know the hand that has been dealt. I know how he plays when he plays a defense like this. And what Michigan did was, honestly, they pressured them. They get Alabama into second and long, third and long, and they just kept bringing pressure. And Jalen Milroe didn't identify where his hot was. He didn't get the ball out quick. He didn't replace the ball with where the defender was coming and really make them pay for it at any point in the game. Maybe a play here or there, but not consistently enough for them to pivot or adjust or even be threatened at all. And when a defense doesn't ever have to go to its counterpunch because you can never defeat the punch, then that renders your offense very, very ineffective. And yeah, I know it'd be great if Alabama could run the ball more effectively with their traditional running backs. And I think going into next year, that needs to be a point of emphasis, that committing and establishing that run game is really beneficial to your quarterback. There's no doubt about that. But when Jalen Milroe is your quarterback and you can constantly flood that interior A-gap with pressure, it makes it really hard on your offensive linemen and makes it really hard on your running backs to get any type of consistent running game going. And that happened against Tennessee. That happened against Michigan, and it happened against Oklahoma. It was a persistent thing. And not only was it a persistent thing this year, it was a persistent thing for much of last year too, when Alabama played Texas and when Alabama played Michigan, and to a lesser extent, Auburn. Because Auburn, I know everybody remembers Gravedigger, but Jalen Milroe did not play great against Auburn in that Iron Bowl up until that point. That's why they were in the situation that they were to have the Gravedigger play. So you have these constraints in your offense because of the quarterback's limitations. It makes it very hard for Nick Sheridan to call plays around it. So you combine that with the 3 turnovers that he gave Michigan. What else do you expect your team to do? You're not going to be able to consistently have a chance to win when your quarterback gives the ball up 3 times, because he fumbled when it was a downpour rain. And I know the conditions were bad, but Michigan did a shotgun snap literally the exact next play. He didn't drop the ball. It hit him right in the chest and he dropped it. Then he throws the pick that was very, very reminiscent to the one he threw against Oklahoma. It looked like they were playing the identical coverage with the linebacker going to the flat. And instead of holding the linebacker with his eyes, what did he do? He predetermined his throw like he has done many a time in the past. And the guy made a play on it and they picked it off. And before Alabama could blink, before they even got off the mat, they had 16 points. Michigan did. And the mind-boggling stat, I think they ran 18 plays for 43 yards and they had 16 points because Jalen Milroe literally gave them the ball in the red zone 3 times. It's hard to win that way, folks. And then when he did put together a couple of drives, one drive was really helped by kind of a trick play to Rico Scott, which I thought was a great design by Nick Sheridan. And Rico Scott ended up being your leading rusher, which is not a good thing. That's not a feather in your cap that you can really be proud of. But he made the throw to Robbie Oots, who was wide open. And that's another thing with Jalen Milroe. If you are wide butt open and he's got time in the pocket to really see it and see you wide open, he can be pretty effective. Here's the issue, though. In the SEC and against high-level competition, especially in the NFL, you have to win with anticipation, especially when you get in the red area and it's more condensed down there. Jalen Milroe has to see it open. His anticipation, has he thrown passes with anticipation in the past? Absolutely. But it is not nearly consistent enough to be able to win from the pocket like he wants to do way too often. So you had a couple plays stringed in there, but then your defense gives you chance after chance after chance after chance to take the lead, and he consistently never pivoted, never made Michigan pay for blitzing him. And then when he did have time, there were a couple plays, the offensive line gave him 5 to 8 seconds. He was either inaccurate with the ball or he held on for it for too long and still got sacked. And then just to put the cherry on top of the sundae, the final drive of the game, defense makes a stop. They get you the ball back for a chance to win it. And you could have had the ball on the 10-yard line, on your own 10-yard line. But Ryan Williams returns it to the 50 with like 2 minutes left. Everything's in front of you. You couldn't ask for a better starting field position to go win the game. And you get down to the 10 and you don't gain a yard and it's 4th and 10 and you leave the pocket way too early, throw it off your back foot and don't even make it to the end zone. I mean, it was just honestly a fitting way to end his career. And I'm not saying I wish that on the kid at all. I didn't wish for him to play bad. But Wink Martindale had a great plan. He had the same plan that a lot of many other defensive coordinators have had this year, and it worked to perfection. And I know many people want to get on Kalen DeBoer and get on Nick Sheridan, but as I've said multiple times, this is a 3-year thing with him, with 3 different offensive coordinators, and everyone blamed Bill O'Brien. Everyone blamed Tommy Rees, and everyone's blaming Nick Sheridan. At some point, it's number 4 in Crimson. I know I've said that before, but it's the absolute fact. Number 4 is what has hamstrung this offense for the past 2 years as a starter, and he almost lost the Texas A&M game in 2022. A 5-7 Texas A&M team. So maybe Bill O'Brien knew what he was talking about when he told the kid, hey, I don't know if you can play quarterback at the next level. And I find it very interesting that there was this big hubbub at the Rose Bowl press conference when he came out and said that Bill O'Brien told him that. And then he said, well, look who's laughing now. Since he said that, Jalen Milroe has lost 5 games as the Alabama starting quarterback. Before that, Alabama had lost 6 games combined in the past 3 seasons, from 21 to 23. And they lost 5 in the calendar year of 2024. Jalen Milroe is a very controversial, polarizing is a better word. And I want to give credit to Luke Robinson. He gave me this, and I got to give him credit. I need a Milroe-noscopy. I need to be cleaned out and cleansed of Jalen Milroe. And guess what? I got the news of the day, baby. I got the news of the day. He is declaring he is not coming back. It's over. And now we can officially turn the page to 2025. And I know a lot of people might disagree with me. I don't know. Maybe after the Michigan game, I think a lot more people are on my side of it was time to go, and thank goodness he's gone. But I can honestly say that this year, he not solely responsible because it is a team game and all plays factor in to a win or a loss. But on the culpability scale, out of the 4 losses, he is most culpable for 3 of them. Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Michigan yesterday. And I'll read this final stat, and then we can kind of move on from Jalen Milroe because, you know, it's time to flip the page, as I said. But I just want to leave with this stat. This is his stats for the Tennessee, Oklahoma, Michigan game. 52 of 103 for 595, 2 touchdowns, 6 picks, 45 carries for 25 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 fumbles, with 2 of them being lost. Now, you tell me how a team is supposed to win at a high level with that type of quarterback play. If you can answer me that in the comments, I'll get you a nice little prize for your New Year's present, because it's just inexcusable. And before yesterday, that was the first passing touchdown against Power 4 competition since the Tennessee game. I don't know what else to say. What else is there to say at this point? I wish Jalen Milroe the best of luck, but man, I'm glad he is gone. I am so glad that he is gone. And let's flip the page. And before we flip the page, let me talk a little bit about the rest of the team and what I saw versus Michigan. All right. So, one comment that I saw that was very persistent after the game was Alabama wasn't prepared to play. The game plan wasn't good. The guys didn't want to be there. There wasn't a lot of fight. There wasn't a lot of heart. And respectfully to all those people, I disagree. I mean, I think if you get competent quarterback playing that game, Alabama blows Michigan out. Because offensively, I mean, Jeremy Bernard was open all game long. And I'm telling you right now, if Jalen Milroe came back, Jeremy Bernard was going to strangle him. He almost strangled him on the sideline. Ryan Williams gave him the side-eyed, dirty, go-to-heck look that I've seen in quite a while from a receiver. After a easy pitch and catch for like 2 or 3 yards, he threw it up and had to jump for it, couldn't come down with it. He gave him a look after that. I think everybody was kind of fed up in that game because there were plays to be made all day long. And you just weren't consistent enough at the quarterback position. When you go 16 to 32 for 193, that's just not good enough against Michigan, who was playing a lot of their backups. That's what makes it even worse. And again, another funny from this weekend is, I am a naysayer, and let it be known that I am one. The naysayers finally won. I know that was the whole Lank era. That needs to go be with Coach Bryant, and thankfully it is with Jalen Milroe moving on. But Alabama offensively had a good game plan. They knew they could attack Michigan in the secondary, and there were plays to be had, just like there were plays to be had against Tennessee. The quarterback just didn't make them. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what is on your play sheet as an offensive coordinator when you call and scheme a guy open consistently, and a guy's throwing up his hands over and over and over again because he's that wide open. He's not getting the ball delivered to him. I don't know what you do, but I didn't think that Alabama didn't want to be there. Especially, go look at the defensive effort. I really want to hone in on that side of the ball because those guys played their tail off. I thought they played an outstanding game, and they were on the field for the majority of it. I don't know what the final time of possession looked like. Let me see if I can find that real quick. But I know at one point it was like 35 minutes for Michigan and 17 for Alabama. And they were still hanging in there. And 16 of those points came on short fields. Here, I'm about to find the final time of possession. God, Lordy B. I mean, like, it ended up being 38 and a half to 21 minutes in Michigan's favor. And your defense kept getting hung out to dry. And they kept delivering for you for the most part. Yeah, in the fourth quarter, they put a drive or two together, but they were exhausted. And they were already playing with limited depth, with guys that had gone to the portal, guys that were hurt. I mean, Jahad Campbell was playing his butt off. That script day meant something to him. He had nothing to really gain from playing in that game. Had 10 tackles in the first half, was playing with his hair on fire. He went out, and the defense still kept delivering. I thought James Smith played phenomenal. If we get that type of performance from him next year, he might be the defensive lineman that Alabama's been lacking who can take over a game. Alabama hadn't had a lineman like that maybe since Christian Barmore, and even that was inconsistent in 2020. Maybe he can be a Quentin Williams type in 2025. Thought that was really promising. I thought Dominique Jackson was great again. Xavier Brown came up with a big pick. My guy, Bray Hubbard. My gosh, my brother was bringing the lumber. He was coming down in run support, laying the wood on the Michigan ball carriers. He always seems to be in the right spot. I think he's going to have a heck of a year. I'll call it right now. I think he could be an All-American type candidate next year. I think he's been that good in relief duty for Keon Sabb in the back half of the year after the Tennessee game. The defense played with a ton of pride. They played like it meant something to them. They played with passion. They played with heart. And you got to give kudos to that staff, and specifically Kane Wommack. They were only really responsible for one loss this year, and that was Vanderbilt. They didn't play well in that game, but since then, they have responded, and they ended with a top 10. They were a top 10 unit in the country by the end of the year, and it was the best defense Alabama has had statistically since 2017, coming off a defense that lost 3 first-round picks or 3 top 2-round picks last year with Kool-Aid, Terrion, and Dallas Turner, and that's not even mentioning Braswell and then Caleb Downs, who's an All-American at Ohio State right now. To do what he did with that unit, nothing short of remarkable. And I think what you can take away going into 2025 and what should be encouraging as an Alabama fan is that unit is going to be returning a lot of talent. It's going to be returning a lot of experience. And I think another year of being comfortable in that scheme, comfortable in that system, those guys are going to be playing even more confident, even faster. And I think Kane Wommack learned a lot on the job this year too. Remember, he had not called defensive plays as a play caller in 3 to 4 years. So he might have been a little rusty in the beginning of the season. I think he's more assured in what he needs to do going forward, whether that means matching personnel more, mixing up some of his looks. I loved his sim packages, that he had going in as the year progressed, kind of mixing up those looks from pre to post snap. I thought he did a wonderful job of that. And LT Overton's coming back. He announced that yesterday. And you got a lot of talent coming in and a lot of young talent who got valuable reps this year. I think you combine that with an offense that's going to return a lot of talent as well, going to return 3 or 4 starters along the offensive line. Running back wise, you're set with Richard Young and Jalen Miller. And then you got a guy like A.K. Deere coming in, Kevin Riley and Daniel Hill. They got some playing time against Michigan. I think they can contribute a little bit. Your receiver room is set. Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard are going to be a heck of a 1-2 duo. And I like the depth in that room probably more so than I did this year. The big question is quarterback. And I'm telling you right now, I want the best guy to win. I want a wide open competition. I want Ty Simpson and Austin Mack and Keelan Russell to compete, and may the best man win. Because I think Kalen DeBoer can win with either of the 3. And one misnomer that I've heard consistently and over again is, well, Jalen Milroe just didn't fit this offense. And you got to have an offense that fits Jalen Milroe. We've had 3 different offensive coordinators who have tried to cater and try to tinker the offense to cater around Jalen Milroe. What Kalen DeBoer ran this year wasn't his system. He said as much. People didn't want to believe him, but he said as much. But it's very hard with his limitations to construct an offensive system that is sustainable and effective in big games. Because again, when you bring pressure, when you mix up looks, and when you have a defensive line that can really hinder your rushing attack, which is what Michigan's defensive line did, and put it more on the quarterback couldn't take advantage. And it was the same story over and over and over again. So I don't think, people are like, oh, Jalen Milroe needs to go play in a Gus Malzahn offense. What makes you think that he'd be effective at that? That offense has a lot of read option, RPO incorporated. He showed many a times this year that was not his strong suit. Making the read on a read option play where the defender, if he stays, he gives, and if he crashes, he takes. Most of the time, the defender would stay because they wanted to key in on Jalen Milroe, but Jalen Milroe would pull it anyway. And I know a lot of people think that, the big run he had right before the half, that wasn't an RPO. That was a designed run where he fakes it, and then the running back becomes the lead blocker, and he kind of follows him and weaves up the sideline. It's not an RPO. It was a called quarterback run, and that was what he was most effective at during the year, not the read option. So I say all that to say that I don't think he wasn't a fit for the system. I just think it's very hard with his limitations, which again, I've talked about in great detail. It's hard to construct an offense around him. But I think a guy like Ty Simpson, who has been there 3 years, and there's a reason, everybody, that he is still there. I'm tired of hearing everyone say, well, he couldn't beat out Jalen Milroe, so he's no good. There was never a quarterback competition in 2024. Mark my words, there was never a doubt who the quarterback would be for 2024 from the moment that Kalen DeBoer stepped on campus. A week into spring practice, he pretty much pronounced and announced Jalen Milroe was starting quarterback. No competition ever took place. I think if it had a true competition, we might have had a little bit of a different story. I wholeheartedly believe that. Wholeheartedly believe that. So I think with a guy who stuck around, who um, the script day means a ton to, he loves Alabama. I think he is more than likely going to be the starter. I think he's going to be really effective because you can still run a lot of the, quarterback run principles that you ran with Jalen. Ty has wheels. Like, Ty is pretty doggone athletic. You know who he kind of reminds me of? Not a one-for-one, but I'm just saying you can use him in a similar type way. Sam Levitt from Arizona State. I think they're very comparable in the skill set that they have, where they're not Jalen Milroe athletic, but they have an innate and an instinctual feel for the position, which I just don't think that Jalen Milroe possesses. So I think he is kind of the front runner to start. I think Austin Mack has a lot of tools, but I think he's unproven. And I think he might need another year to develop. And I think Keelan Russell has all the potential in the world, but it is very hard for a freshman to come in and start. It just is, mainly due to the playbook learning curve. Now, if he can, and I'll say this, if it's close between all three, I think you go with Keelan. Because the upside for him is higher than for Ty and for Austin Mack, even though I think Ty is very talented. I don't know where people get, Ty is Greg McElroy as far as talent goes. He's much more talented than Greg, as far as just pure God-given raw ability. So I think from this point forward, January 2nd of 2025, we're going to find out what Kalen DeBoer's Alabama looks like. I have said that multiple times throughout the season, and from now on, this is his team. He had to play with the cards that he was dealt for 2024, and he ended with a 9-4 record, and I think there's a ton that he could have done better. I think some of the game management against Michigan was terrible. Some of the game management throughout the season wasn't good. As a whole, I don't think Alabama was ready to play the Vanderbilt game. The lack of intensity, effort, and preparedness for that game wasn't up to snuff. So I think he learned a lot throughout this season. There's no doubt about it. I think the discipline side needs to be improved. And I think maybe with another year of, having this job under his belt and his guys, he'll feel like he has a little more freedom to be a little bit more strict and a little bit more of a disciplinarian than he was this year. Because I think a lot of what he did this year, not that he let every little thing go, but he was trying to keep the team together. He didn't want everybody to leave. He didn't want everybody to transfer out. So he had to make some compromises that he normally wouldn't. If we had the same problems next year, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to come on here and I'm going to talk about them. And I'm not going to give this, we got to give him more time. No. But I can give him a little bit of grace this year because I truly feel that he was dealing with a lot that we'll probably never know about. And I do think, not everything, because again, offensive line needs to be improved. I think that will improve with some of the guys he's got coming in that fit his system a little bit more. But the quarterback limited this team a lot, guys. I mean, I truly believe if you have a different quarterback this year, you might be in the playoff right now. I don't think Alabama would have won the national championship. I think Ohio State, if they keep playing the way that they are, they're going to win it. They're the most talented team. But I definitely think that they could have competed more and been a more consistent team than they were this year with a quarterback that is more efficient, that has a little bit more ability to diagnose coverages, diagnose what a defense is displaying for him and how to take advantage of that. I think all that would be really beneficial for Kalen DeBoer. This is an important offseason. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be noisy for a lot of people in that building. There's no doubt about it. And guess what? You earned it. You went 9-4. You lost to 3 pretty mediocre teams. And the noise is going to be loud. The standard at Alabama is a national championship. and you fell way short of it. But I haven't given up on Kalen DeBoer. I haven't given up on this coaching staff. There's talent on this roster. There's talent coming in. And I think ultimately 2025 is going to be much better for Alabama than 2024 was. And I'm excited to kind of see how the offseason plays out. I'm excited for spring practice. I'm excited for these young guys who are going to get more ingratiated and grafted into this system and that are going to be really Kalen DeBoer's guys. Because I do think a lot of the problems this year were because of a transition from Saban to DeBoer. And a lot of it was some misavows by Nick Saban and his staff, where past few recruiting classes, there have been some guys who are very highly touted, that didn't pan out. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun off season. And I'm excited about Jalen Milroe being gone. And I'm excited about the challenge ahead for Kalen DeBoer and his staff. Will he rise and meet the moment? Or will next year be very similar to 2024? If it does, it's going to get interesting in T-Town. But we will be back to cover any other huge breaking news that happens, in the next few weeks. May have a little bit of an, 2024 in review, kind of evaluate every area of the team. Probably won't relitigate a lot of the Jalen Milroe discourse. We kind of turned the page on that. I think we've covered that to death. And again, the first 15, 20 minutes of this podcast was Groundhog Day, because the same conversation we had after USF, Tennessee, South Carolina to an extent, and Oklahoma, and now Michigan. And I do want to say this, and this is the last thing I'll say. All throughout the year, and even last year, I think there were a lot of people that were afraid to criticize Jalen Milroe. And I think even this year, I said from game one, there were things that I noticed in game one. He threw 10 passes, but there were things that worried me because they were tendencies from last year that I thought had been corrected. Then USF happened and they resurfaced even more so. That's why you listen to this podcast. We say what other people want. We have observations that other people don't pick up on. Even though I will say I didn't pick up that Jalen Milroe was tipping plays. You could tell when it was a pass or run, depending on how he had his feet in the shotgun, if they were offset or together. But that's why you listen to Pigskin Cafe. We give you unfiltered, honest football talk. And we appreciate each and every one of you this year that have supported us, that have tuned in each and every week. And again, season's coming to a close, but we've got a few episodes probably that we'll do here in the next few weeks. We appreciate you very much. If you made it this far, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, leave us a like, leave us a comment. We appreciate y'all so much. We hope you have a happy 2025, and we'll be back again soon. But the Pigskin Cafe is going to be closed for now. But until next time, chew on that.